What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now, in this video, I'm going to take you guys through my team selection for the upcoming double/blank Game Week 33. So as we always do in these team selection videos, going to take a look back quickly at the preceding game week, which was Game Week 32, see how the squad got on there before we talk about my transfer plan and my team selection for the upcoming game week. Now, right off the bat, I've chosen not to use the Fiat, but once you guys see my team selection, you guys might understand why, or we might actually discuss why we should use the chip. But currently, as I said, I'm off the chip, but that could all change. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the first talking point I just want to briefly touch on is that there still is European football happening tonight and tomorrow. Tonight we have the Champions League where Man City and Liverpool both have fixtures against Benfica and then also Atletico Madrid. Hopefully there's no injuries in those games, as well as the games tomorrow, which is going to be the Conference League and the Europa League competitions where West Ham and Leicester both take part. Now, the really important fixture there is actually going to be the Leicester one in the Conference League against PSV. I think they are playing. And the reason for that is with the upcoming double game weeks against Newcastle and Everton away, a lot of those Leicester assets are looking quite good to bring in and maybe even captain. So what a lot of people are thinking is that they're going to check what Brendan Rodgers does in the Conference League. If a Maddison, if Harvey Barnes play 90 minutes or more, then they might be actually rested in the Premier League. But if Leicester do win or maybe lose that fixture and maybe Barnes and Maddison get subbed early, that's going to make them more attractive for the upcoming double. So just pay attention to these European games, but I will update you guys in the deadline stream coming up on Saturday, 1 hour before the deadline. So hopefully I do see you guys there. But now going on to our Game Week 32 team, only a single game week and no doubles or blanks. Finally, kind of a normal game week happened. Actually, a relatively good game week for ourselves. I think we ended on about 84 points, which was a lot more than the average thanks to differential Son captain. That actually saw a green arrow up to about the 7.3k mark. So yes, finally we are back in that top 10k slot after kind of going out of it a few game weeks ago, hanging around the top 10k, but finally we've broken through it with quite a few places and into that 7k mark. So hopefully from now to the end of the season, we can only improve on this rank. Only green arrows from now to the end. I'd be very happy with that, with us only having one chip especially. But let's see if we can manage to get our third top 10k finish in the last 4 seasons. But focusing on what got us up to this rank, I'm going to start off with the bench where nothing much happened. Forster got 1 point after a relatively dismal performance, 6-0 loss for Southampton against Chelsea. But at least Forster managed to rack up, I think, about 8 saves. We then have Saiss, Luca Digne, and then Breuer, who all finished with 0 points, as Saiss was actually rested in that Wolves game, or kind of dropped. Kilman took his spot, and Willy Bolly played in that back 3 with Cody. So it's going to be quite interesting to see if Saiss actually gets back into that lineup, or if he does stay out of the team. Luca Digne unfortunately picked up a shoulder injury after going 1-0 down to Spurs, so he ended on 0 points, and it looks like that injury could actually be for quite a long term, as it seems like it might be his collarbone, not even his shoulder, and Stevie G said that he might actually be out for the rest of the season. Then finally with Breuer, he could not play his parent club Chelsea, and therefore he survived the embarrassment of that 6-0 loss. Going on to our starting 11, we have Ramsdale here with only 1 point. Very disappointed with that Arsenal kind of a team performance against Brighton. They really needed to get that win against Brighton, but they didn't. Ended up conceding 2 goals, and therefore Ramsdale ended on 1 point. We then have Doherty, also a little bit of a disappointment there, but he also got injured, a relatively bad knee injury, and he is out for the season now, confirmed by reliable sources. So that 1 point appearance is going to turn to 0 points from now to the end of the season. We then have our 2 options that actually played against each other, Cancelo and Trent, Man City vs Liverpool, both racking up an assist, but Cancelo got 1 bonus point, which took him to 5 versus Trent's 4. So likely I ended up playing Cancelo and Trent instead of maybe like a Luca Digne, but if I did play Saiss, he would have gone onto the bench anyways. Going on to our midfield department, where the real magic happened thanks to our Spurs assets. The first player was a little bit disappointing. That's going to be Saka, who ended on 1 point. He picked up a yellow card in that fixture, and overall Arsenal's attack did not look that strong. Don't you know how to kind of address the situation with Arsenal, because over the prior 2 game weeks, relatively fine fixtures, I think against Crystal Palace and Brighton, and they've choked against both of them. Rafinha luckily paid off our patience with a lovely goal and some bonus points against Watford, so 10 points total for him, but with some tough fixtures coming up for Leeds, he might be on the way out. I'm then going to talk about Salah because he was a big dilemma in my brain before the deadline. I was thinking about taking him out for Fernandes. Luckily, I did not do that move. However, for the upcoming game week, you'll see that Fernandes is a standout captaincy option, and therefore it might have actually been better to make that move pre-game week 32. But Salah ended up getting a very nice assist, and I thought that he could have potentially got some more attacking returns, but I generally think he's getting back on form, and if he does start tonight against Benfica, I think he'll get back on the scoring way of things. But finally, as I mentioned, the Spurs assets really redeemed my squad. First of all, Kulusevski, who got a goal and an assist, I think, and then maybe some bonus points. He ended up on 12 points, but the man of the match and the man of my team was going to be Heung-min-Son with a hattie against Aston Villa. So 21 points, double to 42, and as I mentioned, a little bit of a differential captain. Most teams in the top 10k went with Harry Kane, and therefore we got a nice little green arrow up to the 10k space with this massive haul. So us Heung-min-Son owners managed to escape kind of his away fixture. There was a lot going around that Heung-min-Son's better at home, but I just generally thought that Spurs looked quite hot, and Aston Villa have struggled to keep it together against the better teams. Going on to our forward department though, that was where massive disappointment happened. Lacazette, same fixture, Saka there. He ended on 2 points. Then Weghorst ended on 1 point after not even making the 60-minute mark. So Laka, Threat and Weghorst managed to combine for a massive 3 points in my forward department. The thing about Weghorst that's a little bit worrying though is that 55-minute sub might mean that he's actually dropped for the next couple games. But we don't really know what Dyche is going to do. Maybe he does start him for the next 2. Maybe Weghorst gets back on scoring things, although he's only scored about 1 goal this Premier League season. But I just really think that Burnley aren't looking that strong. They couldn't even get a result against Norwich. But luckily with some of these options, some of this dead wood, we do have 2 free transfers to spend. But first let's look how the GameWeek 33 double / blank GameWeek team is looking. So now we're going to be going over how my current team is setting up, just because I want to give you guys some context about the moves. It's a little bit better to graphically show you guys what I'm dealing with, just so that the transfers make a little bit more sense. So 2 free transfers as I mentioned earlier on, and 0.0 in the bank, so nothing to kind of upgrade. So if we're going to make an upgrade, we have to downgrade someone else, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Starting off with the bench though, we do have 1 player with a fixture, and that's going to be Forster from Southampton with Arsenal at home and Burnley away. But after a 6-0 loss to Chelsea, I'm actually comfortable playing him over someone like a Ramsdale. Then Saiss, Digne and Rafinha all have blank fixtures, so hopefully my starting 11 feature, just because I don't have anyone on my bench. Going on to my defensive departments, Ramsdale on goal, Southampton away and Chelsea away. A little bit annoying that these are 2 away games, but I am generally hoping that Arsenal can bounce back from these 2 losses because the top 4 race is still on. Now Ramsdale's always kind of got those save points, but unfortunately over these prior game weeks, or at least when I've owned him, he's not got those save points, so I'm still waiting for that massive haul, and I do hope it comes in double game week 33. But unfortunately with that injury to Tierney, it doesn't look like that Arsenal defense is that strong, and therefore I hope they can resurge it somehow by maybe bringing in another substitute. Our defense is made up of single game week options this week. Doherty, the first one I want to talk about. So I've mentioned Doherty here just because if I do replace him, which is most likely because he is out for the season, the replacement will come straight back into my starting 11. Then we have Trent against United and Cancelo against Brighton. That Brighton game for Cancelo is going to be absolute gold in my opinion. Man City always do well against them, and therefore I'm just hoping that Cancelo starts. Trent against United, a must-win game for Liverpool in this kind of title race after drawing to City. So hopefully a clean sheet is on the cards at Anfield, maybe some attacking returns from both these 2 assets. Going on to our midfield department, I've got Heung-min-Son and Kulusevski against Brighton. Both of these 2 options face the same team as Man City. A little bit of confusing game week there, but I'm pretty sure you guys will understand it as the game week kind of progresses. But Son and Kulusevski are on great form at the moment, and Spurs, as I've mentioned, are scoring a ton of goals, and therefore Son and Kulusevski could even be captaincy options. Mo Salah against United, I was hoping that he can replicate what he did earlier in the season. I might not captain him, but I do still hope that he gets a hattie and an assist, because I didn't miss it the first time around. I'm almost expecting Mo Salah to be rested against Benfica, but there has been some concerns about his form, and therefore he might want to start tonight, just so that if he does score, he can have a little bit more confidence. He definitely will play though against United, so I'm not really worried about that one because Liverpool, as I mentioned with Trent, are still in the title race and therefore have to win every game. The final player, Saka, is currently our captain just because if you guys see my starting 11, there's not many great double game week players, and therefore I'm relying on a side that aren't in great form, but Saka's still a quality player. Southampton away, Chelsea away aren't great fixtures, but I just generally think against Southampton away, Arsenal could score a couple, and therefore I hope that Saka's involved in the majority. We're then going to move on to the forward line where nothing much is going to happen. I'm expecting Bro against Arsenal at home and Burnley away. Is he going to start both those games? Who kind of knows? Same goes for Weghorst with West Ham away and Southampton at home. Is he going to start both of them? Is he going to start any of them? Who kind of knows with Dyche and Weghorst's form? Then finally Lacazette against Southampton and Chelsea away. Not really expecting too much from him, as the only attacking returns he's got over the prior game weeks are a couple assists. But as you guys can see on screen, the team is not looking too great, but I still don't think it's worth kind of free-hitting. I think the single gaming players in my team have a potential to do quite well, and if I do take out Doherty, I will still have a full starting 11. Let me know what you guys think about the Saka captain down below. I'm almost actually tempted to go for a Heung-min-Son because it's a home fixture, Son does better at home, and Brighton have been shipping a few in the prior game weeks, and also Spurs are scoring a ton. But now that I've kind of given you guys the context of my current team selection for double/blank game week 33, let's get on to some transfers. So 2 free transfers and 0.0 in the bank, and the first player that I'm looking to take out is going to be Doherty from Spurs. So I haven't listed any fixtures under Doherty because he is out for the season, so he's not going to be playing any minutes, so it's kind of the most upside because at the bottom, you can only go up. So I've kind of highlighted two replacements here for Doherty. The first one is going to be Shaw from Newcastle. Now he does come in slightly cheaper than Target, but I could afford Target if I wanted to go there. But I just generally think there's not too much between those two Newcastle defenders, and therefore I want to save some value. Now Shaw has a nice double against Leicester and Crystal Palace at home, then follows that up in game week 34 with a fixture against Norwich away. Now Leicester and Crystal Palace, yes, might be quite attacking sides. They're playing with quite an attacking flair at the moment, but Newcastle have been better at home and their defensive stats are currently the 6th best in the Premier League. Shaw also has some attacking threat off those set pieces and is on occasional direct free kicks, so hopefully he scores a massive banger if we do bring him into our squad. But the second option and the kind of team I want to try bring in are going to be the Leicester defense. And the reason for that is not only do they have a double in 33, but they have a double in 37. And therefore, if I don't free it in 37, I want some preparation for that. But unfortunately, with that Leicester lineup, you can't really predict who's going to start, who won't. They have such rotation with those fullbacks and those centre backs. I've just highlighted James Justin here because he has come back from injury and might be favoured in the Premier League. They have Newcastle and Everton away and then follow that up with Aston Villa at home. Two great double game week fixtures and I really do want some Leicester coverage. But unfortunately, I just can't really predict who's going to start both. So currently the transfer I probably will make is Doherty to Shaw, but if I do want to make an upgrade with one of my other transfers, I might be forced to use Digne or Saiss out because they are slightly more expensive than Doherty. And talking about those upgrades, the one upgrade I'm heavily looking at is taking out Rafinha and then bringing in a Leicester option. Now, which Leicester attacker do you kind of go for? Do you go for Tielemans? He's on penalties. Do you go for Harvey Barnes after he was rested / kind of dropped in game week 32? Or do you go for Maddison, who's been super reliable, but he is quite injury prone? So currently I'm going to be going for the latter there. I'm going to be going for James Maddison if I do make this transfer. They've got Newcastle and Everton away, as I mentioned, which are lovely. Then also has Aston Villa at home. Now, in terms of Rafinha, he has a blank, and then he has Crystal Palace in game week 34, which isn't too bad, but then has Man City at home, followed by Chelsea, another very good team. So this upgrade does make sense, especially if I want to bring in Maddison and captain him. If I'm confident he starts both, I definitely would captain him just because those fixtures look so strong. But I honestly can't tell you that he'll start both, and that does worry me. Another thing to take into account is that if we do bring in Maddison, we'll therefore have to bench one of our other options in our starting 11, and the three options that we potentially could bench are Weghorst, Kulusevski, or Breuer. Now on paper, you probably would say that Kulusevski is the most likely to be benched just because he has a single game week, but I honestly can't tell you that Weghorst and Breuer won't because they might not even start both games. So this might not be that much of a headache, but I do think it's a little bit weird benching Breuer or Weghorst if they do have a double game week, but I also can't really bench Kulusevski because of his recent form. But if we do get news from the press conferences that maybe Weghorst or Breuer will be benched for one of the games, I'll be heavily tempted to go for Maddison even if he only starts one of their fixtures. I think Leicester options are a great hold for the future, and as I mentioned in game week 37, do double if I choose to use the free hit in game week 36. So overall, that's my transfer plan, guys. Let me know what you think about those moves. I think the move from Doherty to Shaw is pretty universally accepted, as it looks like Newcastle's defense is pretty popular on most free hits, and then at least we do have some coverage from those free hit teams. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for a potential ultimate guide. So drop any comments down below that you guys want me to talk about in tomorrow's video. But I'm signing off. It's me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.